Damn, Jimmy, this some serious gourmet shit. Me and Vincent would have been satisfied with some freeze-dried Taster's Choice, right? And he brings this serious gourmet shit on. What flavor is this?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tomorrow's Fights. I'm Matthew Catalano. With me, as always, the man in the white room, Matt Smith. How you doing, Matt?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm living the dream, trying to avoid the hurricane down here. I just hope I get to watch UFC 215. Let's put it that way. So, first major MMA fight after the McGregor-Mayweather card. 1 to 10. What's your excitement level here?
Probably 4. Hey, you got to be honest, right?
So I would say mine was about a 4 before I started digging in and really analyzing the card, and then I started to get a little more excited. There's some fun fights on this card. The main card is pretty good. It got hurt by losing that Junior Dos Anjos Francis Ngannou fight. That would have been an awesome scrap, but I mean, nonetheless, you got Gilbert Melendez coming back from the dead, fighting Jeremy Stevens at 145. You got undefeated Tyson Pedro, Rafael Dos Anjos moving on in the 170 picture. Then you got the rematch between Nunez Shevchenko, and then finishes it off with the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, whether he gets the respect he deserves or not, Mighty Mouse Johnson. So we'll walk through the main card with our breakdowns. We'll focus mostly on the 2 title fights. Before we get to that, is there anything on the prelims that you're getting jazzed about?
Not really. To be honest with you, I don't know a lot of the fighters that are actually on the prelims for Fox Sports 1 or the Fight Pass.
So I'll say one thing about the prelims. Cajun Johnson, I saw that dude's name. All right, he's on the very first fight on Fight Pass, so that's probably going to be at like 6 o'clock EST or whatever. Homeboy hasn't fought since 2015. So Cajun Johnson hasn't fought in literally 2 years. I think his last fight was in August of 2015. And the only thing I've heard about Cajun Johnson since then... Okay, his last fight was a unanimous decision win against Naoki Kotani, can't say I knew who that is, in September 27th, 2015. And then the only thing I've heard about him since is when they were at the Fighter Summit, he spoke out against Fighter Pay or something like that, and then Raging Al Aquinta threw a beer at him or some shit. That's all I know about that. He's fighting Adriano Martins. I mean, that should be fun. You got Mitch Clark on there. Good submission grappler. That should be okay. The main thing I'm looking forward to on the preliminary cards on Fox Sports 1, you got Gavin Tucker at featherweight taking on Rick Glenn. Gavin Tucker was that prospect that came out and just dusted Sam Sicilia. Unanimous decision, but just beat the brakes off him. And after that fight, everybody was like, holy shit, who is this guy? When are we going to see him again? And I didn't even know he was fighting on this card until I looked down on the prelims and saw his name there. Clicked on his Wikipedia page and saw that his last fight was against Sam Sicilia. And I thought, oh, that guy. So, dude, watch out for that fight. I mean, Rick Glenn is a good test for him, but he should handle Rick Glenn. That's really all I care about on the prelims. Henry Cejudo, Wilson Hayes is cool, but Henry Cejudo should have no problem with that. I think he's one of the biggest favorites on the card. Yeah, minus 350. Minus 350, which was basically Floyd Mayweather against Conor McGregor. It's fucking crazy. Anyways.
Can we mention, though, that actually was a pretty damn good fight?
I thought it was good, yeah. And I didn't think our prediction was too far off from really what happened. But, shit, we could spend a whole nother hour talking about that. UFC 215, baby. Let's get back to some high-level MMA. I will say, after that Mayweather-McGregor fight, it really had me, one, it had me really wanting to see McGregor back in MMA, and two, it had me craving high-level, relevant mixed martial arts again, which is what this card is. So,
I think that's part of the reason, though, why I'm giving this a 4 is because I'm so hyped up still from the McGregor fight, and I want to see McGregor fight, that this, to me, is just not at that same level, even though you do got 2 championship cards on here, which is nice.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
I mean, I agree. I think the whole combat sports community is still putting to bed the Mayweather-McGregor fight. And you know, it's funny. We feel like that. Imagine how McGregor feels. Like, how is he going to get up for his next fight? They're not going to pay him $100 million to dust the floor with Tony Ferguson, you know?
Well, I don't think he's going to expect $100 million from MMA, but he's definitely going to expect a lot more.
Yeah.
It's 2 different
beasts. I digress. So, the pay-per-view card opens up with a featherweight bout between Jeremy Stephens and Gilbert Melendez. Jeremy Stephens dropped to 145 after a sort of journeyman-like run at lightweight. He dropped to featherweight in 2013, and he went 5-5. He's lost his last 2 fights against Frankie Edgar and Renato Moicano, and he's taking on Gilbert Melendez, who, this is crazy. In the last 3 years, he's only fought 3 times. Once in 2016, once in 2015, and once in 2014. He challenged Anthony Pettis for the lightweight belt, and he got guillotined in the second round. Then he fought Eddie Alvarez to that split decision in that was basically a #1 contenders fight. But then he tested positive for steroids, and he was out for another year. He comes back against Edson Barbosa and loses a decision there. He just really got outgunned, leg kicked a whole bunch, couldn't really get his game plan going. So this will be Gilbert Melendez's first fight at featherweight at 145. So that's something to keep an eye on to see if he makes the weight. How do you feel about this fight?
Well, just look at him. He definitely has lost the last 3 fights, but he went against some really high caliber fighters, to be honest with you. So
and a lot of people thought he won that Eddie Alvarez fight. That was a point of contention.
I don't know. We'll really have to see what happens. You know, Jeremy Stephens has got 14 losses under his belt too. So let's put that out there.
Yeah. So
out of his last 4 fights, he's lost 3. So I think this is a good matchup for both of them. I don't know how long their careers are going to be in the UFC, but it should be interesting.
So who's your pick?
I say Melendez.
Yeah, so for me, this is one of those fights where if it was happening like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, this would be an easy Gilbert Melendez pick for me. Melendez is a good pressure fighter, and he's beaten guys better and bigger than Jeremy Stephens. I mean, you think about Josh Thompson, Jorge Masvidal, but you know, Jeremy Stephens is a surprisingly technical fighter in the pocket, and that's where Melendez is going to take this. That's where he fights best, unless he's going to try and take it to the ground, which Stephens has historically good takedown defense as well. So I don't know how Melendez is going to look at 145. I don't know how he's going to look after being gone for a year, and he's just looked progressively worse in the UFC fight to fight. Even though that's primarily because he's taking so long just to do it. The dude is 35 now. Definitely out of his prime. You could argue Jeremy Stephens is too, but I think Jeremy Stephens' inside boxing game is just a little sweeter, and he's going to catch Melendez coming in. And I could see him taking the first 2 rounds before Melendez storms back in a third and realizes that he doesn't have 2 more after that, loses a fun decision. I could see this being a front runner for fight of the night. So I'm going Jeremy Stephens by unanimous decision. I'm not confident about that, but that's where I'm laying my cards.
I think either way, it's going to be a good fight.
I think this is going to be the best fight on the main card. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's great, and then the other 4 are great, or the Mighty Mouse fight is incredible, but I feel like this is the front runner for me for fight of the night if I had to predict that.
I'd agree with that.
All right, so moving on, we have light heavyweight action. Ilir Latifi versus Tyson Pedro. Ilir Latifi, he's the guy that came into the UFC on that late notice fight in 2013 against Gegard Mousasi. Went on to win 2 chokes against Cyril Debati and Chris Dempsey, both of which are not in the UFC anymore. Lost via TKO to Jan Blachowicz. KO'd Hans Stringer, Sean O'Connell, and then took Gian Vellante to a decision to win 3 straight, put him at 12-4 before he got knocked out by Ryan Bader with that flying knee. That was almost exactly 1 year ago. Man, what's up with these guys? They're so inactive. It's crazy. Anyways, Ryan Bader knocked out Ilir Latifi and then bounced right to Bellator, so there's that. And he is fighting Tyson Pedro, who's some new blood in the light heavyweight division, and boy, do we need it after John Jones is making some more poor decisions.
I think this guy looks good.
Yeah, so Tyson Pedro is 6-0. He came to the UFC at 4-0. He traditionally has his background in jiu-jitsu, but he has a well-rounded MMA game, and his second art is supposedly boxing. Comes into the UFC and submits Khalil Roundtree with a rear naked choke in the first round after he gets dropped by a huge right hand. So it was nice to see him weather that storm and recover. Then he returns at UFC 209 to fight Paul Craig, who is also undefeated as another light heavyweight prospect. And he just murdered him in the clinch. I mean, he deleted Paul Craig in that fight. It was brutal. And that's when the hype train started picking up steam on Tyson Pedro. So,
well, that was also a round 1 KO.
Yep.
We really haven't seen anything, at least from the UFC side, like this guy going the distance or anything. So it'd be an interesting fight.
Look, every single fight has ended in the first round. The longest he's fought is 4 minutes and 10 seconds, and that was his last fight. So, I mean, there's some questions. There's some questions there. Can he fight for 15 minutes? If he doesn't finish the guy right away, what's going to happen? Dude, Ilir Latifi is not an easy fight for your 3rd UFC fight.
Yeah.
I mean, these odds have to be close. Let's see. Damn. So they got Ilir Latifi as the slight favorite, minus 130, and then Tyson Pedro coming back at about plus 100. This is going to be a stiff test for Latifi.
You know, the more we look at this card, the more I'm interested in it.
Yeah. All right. So this fight, I think this is Ilir Latifi is the guy that Tyson Pedro should fight in his next fight. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about this matchup. It's just a little too much too soon for Tyson Pedro. I wish they kind of would groom him a little bit more, especially with how thin light heavyweight is. You know, you have a big, strong, undefeated prospect who finishes fights, and you're going to give him Ilir Latifi. I mean, I think maybe what they're thinking is Latifi likes to wrestle, and that plays into Tyson Pedro's game. I hope so, but you know, this could either go 2 ways. It's Latifi wrestles him to a decision, takes him down, and Tyson Pedro just can't generate enough offense from his back or can't get up. Or, you know, Pedro knocks him out with some brutal elbows while he's defending a takedown, or hits some crazy scramble, gets to his back and chokes him out, something like that. So, man, I gotta take Latifi here. I don't want to do it, but I gotta take Latifi by a decision. I think it's just a little too much too soon for Tyson Pedro, but I really hope I'm wrong.
I'll take Pedro. I'll just take the opposite side on this one, just to make it fun. No, I think they're both good fighters, and Latifi is actually really well rounded too. Outside of just wrestling, so this is going to be another good fight.
And it's crazy. Tyson Pedro is only 25. That's the type of young talent you want in the UFC.
Yeah.
And look at Latifi's.
You mentioned before that fighters, they're only doing one fight a year. Maybe it's because they just want to fight up, and everybody's looking to fight the guy above them or someone at least above them. So probably getting a fight right now in the UFC in the top 10 is probably hard.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, and you know what? Everybody sees what McGregor did and the template that he set forward. People are basically just waiting until the UFC pays them enough to go fight. I mean, we've seen this with Tony Ferguson and the whole Khabib Nurmagomedov debacle. And now Tony Ferguson is fighting Kevin Lee, but he's doing it for a title, an interim title. So I don't know. I don't know why some guys are so inept. For Latifi, I mean, maybe there's a reason that he hasn't fought in a year, that maybe he was injured or something that we're not seeing. Oh, hold on. Latifi was expected to face Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira on June 25th, UFC Fight Night 112. However, on May 17th, it was announced that Nogueira pulled out due to a neck injury. Subsequently, despite having 6 weeks to secure a replacement, they elected to remove Latifi from the event. Oh, well, that doesn't really explain. I mean, so I guess he was set to fight in June. His opponent pulled out. UFC didn't get anybody else, and then they just bailed on it altogether. So, I mean, you got some booking problems going on, too. I think one of the fighters said that, like, when you're winning a bunch of fights, it's easy to get the next fight. They want you to fight again in 2 months because, you have name value and fans are recognizing you and they want to see you again. When you're losing, forget it. They won't book you for another 8 months.
We could go back to the Stevens and Melendez thing, This could literally be the deciding factor if they're going to be in the UFC fighting again. You know what I mean? Both of them don't have the greatest win record right now, at least out of their last 4 or 5 fights. So this could be
this could be pink slip territory for Stevens if he loses that fight. Okay, so you're taking Pedro there. Honestly, I hope you're right. I would love to see.
That'd be cool.
If Latifi beats Tyson Pedro, it's just Latifi is not going anywhere. He's not going to be a contender. He's not moving towards the belt. It would just all it would do would erase a prospect, and you hate to see that. So,
yeah.
All right, that brings us to welterweight action: Neil Magny versus Rafael dos Anjos. Rafael dos Anjos, this will be his second fight at 170. He was the champion at 155. Defended his belt once against Donald Cerrone, lost it in that crazy TKO exchange versus Eddie Alvarez, fought one more time at 155, losing to Tony Ferguson by decision in Mexico City. Then he moves up in weight to 170 and wins a decision against Tarek Saffiedine. That was at the UFC Fight Night Home versus Correa. That card, let us never speak of it. So he's 1-0 at welterweight. Good for Rafael dos Anjos. And he is taking on Neil Magny. This is a good fight. This is about what I would want to see. Kind of seems like a lateral step for Rafael dos Anjos. I mean, you go from Tarek Saffiedine to Neil Magny. Neil Magny's a great fighter. Is he a contender at 170? Not really. He was on his way there. He's always been on his way there. If you look at Neil Magny's record, I mean, after losing to Seth Brzezinski in 2013, he was 8-3. And then he rattled off 7 wins in a row in the next 2 years before fighting Damian Maia and getting submitted. Then he wins his next 3 fights and TKO's Hector Lombard, which I thought he was going to lose that one. Now he's 18-4 until he gets destroyed by Lorenz Larkin, who is now in Bellator. and then he beats an out of shape Johnny Hendricks, who came in at 173, and that was a while ago. That was like 7 months ago. So that brings Neil Magny to 19-5. Nothing wrong with that. All right, go ahead. You start on this one.
I do like seeing Dos Anjos move up a weight class.
Yeah, you like him better at welterweight or at lightweight? Not a lot of data to go on, but
this is true. I don't know, man. He's already had the belt. You know what I mean? Let's put him in a different weight class, see what happens. He ain't got nothing to lose. So,
and he also doesn't have to lose that 15 pounds. I guess that was killing him, you know?
Yeah, so, hey, man, I'm all for fighters fighting at a healthy weight, and if this works for him, let's see what happens. Could be beast.
Yeah.
And Neil Magny, he's an amazing, well-rounded fighter, and he's obviously doing well. You look at his record. You know, the only losses he really has is to high-caliber fighters. So he's got a lot of wins under his belt recently, in like the last 10 fights. You know, this is going to be a good card. You know, I'm going to take back my rating of I give this card a 4. I'll give it a 7 now.
A 7?
A 7.
I mean, I was willing to go up to a 6. I mean,
I just think these fights are just like really going to be close, and they're going to be entertaining. Like any of these could really be. Yeah,
they're very well matched. Yeah, I agree. So Neil Magny is a guy that Rafael dos Anjos has to beat if he wants to challenge for the belt at 170. And I know he does. He just did some interview on the MMA Hour. What did he say? He said that the UFC, like, offered him the title shot against Tyrone Woodley if Damian Maia turned it down. Like, I mean, I was kind of surprised that Rafael dos Anjos was the next guy. But there's not a lot going on at 170. So, you know, GSP ain't there. He's going up to 185. So.
Yeah, you think GSP could ever get back down to 170? He's looking big. He's looking big, dude.
I think if that was something he really wanted to do, he could. I just don't know what GSP's plans are. I mean, he wants to beat Bisping, win the second belt, and then do what?
I don't know. Yo, can you imagine, though, if his cardio is still as good at that weight? He's going to be a beast.
I hope he can wrestle Bisping, but...
Well, it doesn't matter.
All right, we'll save that for the next card.
All right.
Anyways, you know, Rafael dos Anjos, he's typically a pressure fighter. You saw what he did to Anthony Pettis.
Mm-hmm.
God, I mean, he took him right out of his game plan, marched forward, put him on the ground. Rafael dos Anjos has a sick jiu-jitsu game, too. Let's not forget that. He is a beast on top. Neil Magny, he's long, he's defensive, he's good on the ground as well. Neil Magny is like the guy on your high school basketball team who knows how to do everything, but he can't do it himself. He's like the coach's son who like knows all the fundamentals and like watches tape when he's 12 years old, and he can tell you like the stats of every team. He knows how to do everything perfectly and fundamentally, but he can't execute everything. He just knows that those moves exist. It's like that's Neil Magny in MMA. He's well coached and he sticks to the fundamentals. He sticks to his game plan. He knows what to do. He's not gonna hit a rolling knee bar or a standing wheel kick. He's just not gonna throw that type of shit because it's high risk and low reward.
Well, then you have a champion in the making then. He knows how to win fights, and that's what you need to do to become a champion.
Definitely knows how to win fights.
So,
I mean, it's funny, like, Neil Magny, when he was on that 7-fight run, I was just waiting for him to meet a guy that would just blow him apart, because I didn't think he was a good defensive fighter. I thought Tim Means would do it. I thought Hwan Gum Lim would do it. And then Damian Maia submitted him, but that was a little different. He just, you know, pure technique there in that fight. Then next he fought Eric Silva, who's just a whirlwind of offense. I thought Eric Silva would do it there. but he didn't. And then I thought Hector Lombard would murder him.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And I mean, Lorenz Larkin did, but Lorenz Larkin's no joke. I mean, he's a contender. So I don't know if Rafael dos Anjos either has that overpowering offense to finish him like Lorenz Larkin did. I'm not sure if his jiu-jitsu game is quite as sweet as Damian Maia's for him to submit him. And if neither of those finishes happen, then you have to win a decision against Neil Magny, and people just aren't doing that. You know, it's just not happening. If you take Neil Magny to a decision, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd actually give this fight to Neil Magny.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Magny here by decision. I just think I think whatever Rafael dos Anjos throws at him, he's going to be able to weather that storm. I think his coaches have probably put together a smart game plan on what to do. You know, I really want to see what is the reach difference in this fight. Okay, Neil Magny is 6'3". He's a huge welterweight.
10-inch reach advantage for Neil Magny. Jesus.
Yeah, that gonna be a problem. Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, RDA is a good pressure fighter, and you know what? We might see his wrestling game here. He might try to see what Damian Maia did, get this to the ground. Neil Magny's a brown belt. He's a good jiu-jitsu guy, but he is nowhere on the level of RDA. RDA is a legit black belt, and I wouldn't say he would take Neil Magny to school on the ground, but over the course of 3 rounds, he would definitely win most of the exchanges if they took place on the floor. I'm just not sure if he can get close enough to initiate.
Can he keep him on the ground that long? You know, that's hard, man.
Yeah.
If it goes to decision, I just don't see it going in dos Anjos' favor.
Yeah. And for that, you know, I got to pick Magny. Which brings us to the first title fight on the card. So this is kind of interesting. They're headlining it with Demetrius Johnson and Ray Borg, which is a flyweight fight at 125. And the co-main event is Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko at 135. Are you surprised that they're headlining with Mighty Mouse over Amanda Nunes? Or no?
No, not really.
I think the theory has always been like the higher weight fight if there's more than one title on the card, the higher weight fight takes the headlining spot. But if it's the male fight takes precedence over the female fight. So that's why even though Mighty Mouse is 125, he's still headlining over 135 Amanda Nunes.
I kind of hope they don't base it on gender, to be honest with you.
I think this is just
I personally think it's because Mighty Mouse he's just been reigning for a while, man. He's been around. I think, to be honest with you, I would hope he's got a bigger following than Nunes. So that's why they would put him as the main card, I would believe.
That is a great question. I don't it's so hard to tell how popular Amanda Nunes is because the pay-per-view buys that she's been on, like, let's see.
Because of other people?
Yeah, exactly. It's been buoyed by. Okay, so her last fight was Ronda Rousey. Mm-hmm. So, like, you think most people bought that pay-per-view to watch Amanda Nunes? I don't think so.
Not at all.
They bought it, right? They bought it for Ronda Rousey. Now, her previous fight was UFC 200, which was that mega card with Brock Lesnar. And so, I mean, those are the only cards she's headlined. So one of them, she's been pulled along by Ronda Rousey. The other one was against Miesha Tate, who is arguably the second most popular.
At the time, yeah, definitely.
So let me ask you this. With Ronda Rousey gone, before we break down this fight, with Ronda Rousey gone, just throw a name out there. Who's the most popular women's MMA fighter not named Cris Cyborg? Who's the biggest draw? Who's the biggest star?
I don't know. I'd really have to look at I don't know, to be honest with you.
right?
Nobody really comes to mind.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean,
you think
I
of
would
Nunes
say,
because she's a beast and she beat Ronda Rousey. You know what I mean? But
I would say like Joanna Jędrzejczyk,
okay.
maybe,
Well, Holly Holm, but
or maybe Holly Holm.
yeah.
But that's, I mean, the fact that you can't name something quick.
But that's only because they beat Ronda.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like Holly, like people liked her and stuff, but until she beat Ronda, she was not a big draw.
No.
I don't know. I'm looking at the list right now, and yeah, that's really
Like, I mean, I guess I would say Joanna, because she's developed this cult-like following for how much of a savage she is at 115. But, I mean, even her, who knows, she doesn't really have I don't think she's headlined a bunch of pay-per-views where you could look distinctively at them and say, in an isolated vacuum, this is how many pay-per-view buys she's drawn. But, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Like, if you take Ronda Rousey out of the picture and you just put Cris Cyborg to the side for a minute, like who's the biggest MMA?
well. Isn't there a whole another weight class for Cyborg now? Didn't they just add that?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
kind of different,
145.
anyways. But for that weight division, you know who I like actually? Raquel Pennington. Forgot about her, but I'm looking at the list. I like her a lot.
I like her, but I wouldn't say she's like a star or anything.
No, but she's known from the show and stuff, so
Yep.
she definitely got a following. And I think she used to be who was under Ronda's like whole little trio they had going on there. Who was the
Four Horsemen? Not a trio, it's four of them.
Oh, sorry, 4 of them. Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't think you even want to know because they're all just completely irrelevant.
Yeah, they all got. Well, that's the reason.
Yeah, exactly.
All of them got beat.
Imagine that. Okay, anyways, Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, the rematch this time for the belt, 5 rounds. Go ahead, you start us off. I have my own thoughts on this one.
I think this is going to go the distance, and it's going to be Nunes.
Damn.
And I'll tell you why. I think she's just a better, well-rounded fighter, and I think she's got a little bit more strength to her. And I don't see this actually ending early. This is going to go the 5 rounds. What worries me is, like you were saying earlier, is her cardio. I think in the 4th or 5th round, the championship rounds, is really going to decide this fight.
So are you thinking that Nunes is going to take the first 3 rounds and kind of survive the last 2 and pick up like a 48-47 type deal?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Unless maybe she surprises us. Maybe she's like working on her cardio. I don't know. But yeah, that's what we're gonna have to see in the fight, I guess.
Yeah. So to touch on that, I mean, you're right about Amanda Nunes being stronger and bigger. Valentina Shevchenko, I believe, doesn't cut any weight to make 135. I think her kickboxing fights were at 125. I could be wrong there, but whatever lightweight is in kickboxing, I don't know. But I know she doesn't cut any weight to make 135, and with the UFC opening a 125 flyweight division, there's a lot of talk of her going down to that. So she definitely, Amanda Nunes definitely has the strength advantage, I would agree. And I would say she has the grappling advantage as well. Amanda Nunes is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She's a talented grappler. She's got a good top game. She's incorporated strikes into her top game very well. Valentina Shevchenko, though, no slouch on the ground. I mean, she came out and armbarred Julia Pena last fight, and she hit some sick takedowns on her too. Pena was kneeing her in the clinch in the first round. She just caught those knees and dumped her right into side control, and she did it twice in a row, like right in front of Pena's corner. I mean, it was almost comical that she hit the second one like a minute later. But all right, one thing I want to go over in this fight, I went back and watched the first fight, which was at UFC 196, I believe. So it's a 3-round fight. And this was, how long ago was that?
2016, March 5th.
So, like 14 months ago, right? Something like that. All right, so in this fight, Nunes comes in at a minus 115 favorite, and Shevchenko comes back at plus 100. That's the first fight. Now, what are the odds for the second fight? They are Amanda Nunes is minus 110, but Shevchenko is minus 120 now. Now Shevchenko is the favorite. So you could ask yourself, what happened? What has each fighter done since the first fight that made the odds makers favor Shevchenko now? Well, after the Amanda Nunes loss, Shevchenko went on to take that decision against Holly Holm in a super impressive 5-round decision. I mean, I felt like she stifled Holly Holm's offense. She was beating her to the punch. Like, Holly Holm just did not.
Yeah, and Holly Holm's no joke with striking. So
Absolutely not. I mean, that fight was a boxing kickboxer versus a Muay Thai fighter, and it was super fun and interesting to pick that apart. And I was very impressed with Shevchenko. And she's not even going to have to work as hard, in the striking department against Amanda Nunes. She's got other problems to worry about. But just to see her do that to Holly Holm was very impressive. Then, in her very next fight, she basically out-grapples Juliana Pena and submits her with an armbar in the second round. Never saw that coming. So that's what Shevchenko has been up to since the fight. And then you look at Amanda Nunes.
And this, I think, is even more impressive. She going Sarah McMahon, obviously, Shevchenko. I can't even pronounce her name. She beats Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey. That's
yes. Well,
they're both fighting really good fighters in their last.
Let's just talk to after the Shevchenko fight.
Okay. So Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, and so she chokes Miesha Tate out in the first round. Dude, that fight was brutal.
That was brutal.
I mean,
it looked like Miesha Tate, once she felt her power, was like, I'm done. I'm quitting the UFC. Yeah. Like, she made up her mind in the ring. I am completely done. Once this goes to the ground, I'm out. Like, literally. You could see it in her eyes. It was actually amazing. It was amazing to watch. She's like, I quit. I'm done.
Yeah, that was brutal. I mean, 3 minutes and 16 seconds in the first round. Got to her back, finished her. And then we all know what happened in the Ronda Rousey fight. All of 48 seconds it took for Ronda Rousey to not move her head and stumble into the clinch like this. For those listening to the audio only, I am closing my eyes and pummeling forward. Anyways. So, I mean, that's funny that you say you think Amanda Nunes' last two fights are more impressive. Yeah, I mean, I think on the scale you could argue that. But I guess what I would say is maybe I've seen more improvement out of Shevchenko, and maybe that's why the odds makers have her as a slight favorite. But really, I mean, this is a pick'em fight. It's so close. So what I want to go over really quick, I watched the first fight again, and I haven't seen it in a really long time. I think probably since it was live. And I essentially remembered it as Nunes winning the first two rounds, getting tired, losing the third. And that is essentially what happens, but there's a couple of takeaways here. All right. In the first round, Shevchenko throws all of like 6 strikes. She does almost nothing. And I think this comes from her like Muay Thai and boxing background, where you have so many rounds that those fighters like give away the first couple to collect data, a la Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. And then they'll come back and win. But you just can't do that in MMA. You can't give rounds away. There's not enough. Especially in a 3-round fight. I mean, Shevchenko essentially just gave the first round away. The first minute, she lands one right hand, and she only throws one right hand. Also in that first minute, Nunes throws one body kick. That's all that happens. And then in the next 4 minutes, they exchange. You basically have Nunes running around, leg kick, and then she gets a takedown in the last minute. Shevchenko literally does nothing in that first round. And then the second round is where Nunes really opened up, and she hits a takedown right in the first minute. And she basically sits in Shevchenko's half guard and just hits her with a ton of ground and pound. And what people were saying when people look back and describe this fight, they basically say, Amanda Nunes punched herself out in the second round, and that's why she was gassed in the third. That wouldn't happen again. But as I was watching the second round, I mean, there's no moment where she's like really wailing on her and the ref's about to stop it. There's no moment where she's spending 60 seconds straight just gunning it, doing something that would exhaust you. So I think that was a little overblown. She definitely exerts a lot of energy in that second round, but to say that there was a clear time, to say that it was obvious she blew herself out and that wouldn't happen again. I mean, I think that could absolutely happen again if she gets the top position she wants. So, when she came out for that third round, Shevchenko did whatever she wanted. I mean, she sprawled on every takedown. She hit knees. She got a takedown of her own. She ended the fight on top, in side control. So, yeah, I mean, it was a clear decision win for Nunes, but just going back and watching it, there were a lot of specific things that I didn't realize. So those are the questions I have. Has Nunes fixed her cardio issues? If she gets on top, is she going to wail away with ground and pound and exhaust herself? Is Shevchenko going to pull the trigger? Is she going to give the first round away? I mean, I could see Shevchenko doing something similar and just having a tepid striking match, give away the first 3 rounds like almost on accident, and then she wins the last 2. Oh, too late. You lost the decision. And I could see Nunes winning that fight in the way that you described. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Valentina Shevchenko is going to be more aggressive. I think she'll probably give away the first 2 rounds, but I think she's going to defend most of Nunes' takedowns. She might be on her back in the first or second round, but come 3, 4, 5, I think she's going to turn it on, and we're either going to see an early 5th round finish or a decision 3-2, 4-1 for Valentina Shevchenko. That's what I'm going with.
Hey man, I'm just saying Nunes has had like 8 finishes round 1, either knockout or submission. So maybe more. What is it? 8? I don't even know. I don't even have it up in front of me.
It's like
it's anybody's call for this, to be honest with you. If it goes the distance, I could see Nunes getting the first 3 rounds. Maybe she tires herself out. Maybe she does get finished in the 5th. It's possible, but at the same time, Nunes does have the power to knock her out in the first round. She's done it a lot in the past. So
I think Nunes has to finish to win. That's what concerns me. I mean, Nunes is a great fighter. Like, don't get me wrong, she is an incredible fighter. She is a deserved champion. The only thing that concerns me about her is we have never seen her fight in the 4th and 5th round, and that's just data we just don't have. And we have that with Valentina Shevchenko. We know that she can fight in the 4th and 5th round. And with Nunes, we know that she's gotten tired in the 3rd before. So I just can't.
What's funny too? The only time she's ever gone to a decision in the 3rd round, Nunes, was against Valentina.
Really?
Everything else has been either she's had 7 round 1 stoppages, either from knockout or submission. 1 knockout in the 2nd round, and a knockout in the 3rd round.
Oh wait, she's lost. She lost to Sarah D'Elio in a 3-round decision. That was 3 years ago. I don't remember that fight. And then she got finished by Kat Zingano. I remember that fight. And then after that, she never lost again. But all her wins.
Whoops. I was looking at the wrong thing. I was just looking at the wins. But the losses, she lost, Kat Zingano and Alex Davis.
But you're right. Her only win.
Whoops.
Her only win in the 3rd round is with the Valentina Shevchenko fight where she lost that 3rd round. Clearly.
Yes. But what I'm saying is she's never I guess you can even say it in her losses, at least from the UFC history. Everything's been a knockout or submission, whether she was the one getting knocked out or submitted, but everything has been a knockout or submission except for Valentina.
Yeah.
That's how I should have worded that, excuse me.
No, that's definitely an accurate statement in her UFC career. And it's like that, that speaks to her offensive ability and Shevchenko's durability.
That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. She's definitely durable. She's the only one who's actually survived the storm.
So you're picking Nunes. I'm going to take Shevchenko by maybe a late TKO with a tired Amanda Nunes. Could go either way. Which brings us to the main event. To Dana White's dismay, flyweight Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson taking on Ray Borg at 125. So if at this very point in time, Demetrius Johnson has, I believe, 10 title defenses in a row, which is tied for the most with Anderson Silva. So he's tied for the record, and if he wins this fight, then he has the record. And it amazes me that more people don't know that, or really that the UFC isn't promoting that. I mean, I think I've seen it on like a few promos or commercials, but that shit needs to be on billboards, man. I mean, their mispromotion of Demetrius Johnson is just ridiculous at this point. So, I mean, you're a fan of Mighty Mouse, right? You know that he has a whole like Twitch community and like he's like all about streaming video games and he has all that shit. You know about that?
No, I actually didn't.
Yeah, and you're exactly the type of guy who should know about that. Which means that the UFC is promoting him wrong.
Is it? Well, I guess at the end of the day, it really is UFC's job to promote these things. You know, they're the ones pulling in all the money for the pay-per-views and everything else. So, yeah, I guess it really falls on their shoulders. He could do a better job himself, though.
I don't disagree with that.
And here's the thing, though. And this just speaks to his character, though. I don't really know much about him. I don't watch a lot of press conferences about him, to be honest with you. You know why? Because we're all focused on the drama, whether it's John Jones and Cormier or, even McGregor. Everybody focuses on the drama, and they like to see that stuff. And I'm assuming he doesn't really partake in that because I don't really remember too much of him doing anything like that. So
it's all business.
That is part of the reason why he doesn't have a big following or big interest is because people gravitate towards that type of thing. It's hard for the UFC to promote when there's no drama there.
Yeah.
McGregor makes their job easy.
He's also never had like an enemy, like a rival.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't talk shit. Unless you're talking shit, you're not going to have any enemies. You know what I mean?
But sometimes you have a guy that just talks shit to you, like McGregor and Aldo,
I guess.
And he's never had, like, the flyweight division has never had, like, a vocal loudmouth like that, like a little mini McGregor who's been good enough to back it up and get to Mighty Mouse. Like, it's hard to even get to Demetrius Johnson because you got guys like Joseph Benavidez and Dustin Ortiz picking off all the prospects,
So you're telling me they're both at 11 UFC wins, like straight wins? John Jones?
No. I'm saying Demetrius Johnson has had 10 straight title defenses, and
okay.
He's tied for the record with Anderson Silva. So if he defends his belt successfully against Ray Borg on Saturday, he will have the new record for most consecutive title defenses, which would be 11, which is just insane. It's insane to defend your belt as the champion 11 times. I mean, that's just fucking bananas.
Well, wait a second here. I guess, it doesn't count for John Jones because he's been so on-off, right? Because John Jones technically has had the last 11 fights, all title fights.
Yeah, but...
Let me see Anderson Silva stuff. But it wasn't actual straight title defenses. I get what you're saying.
it's not consecutive because he lost the belt because he hit some lady in the car and ran away and took his drugs.
Dude, we could have a whole episode on just his fucking career outside of the octagon.
Yeah. So
the John Jones life.
All right, let's give some quick background on these two guys before we dive into this breakdown. Demetrious Johnson has been fighting since 2007. He's been fighting for 10 years. He's 31 years old. He opened up on the regional circuit 10-0 before moving to the WEC. Man, I miss the WEC. I'm going to say that right now. Those are good times. So he goes into the WEC in 2010, immediately fights Brad Pickett, and loses a decision. That's one of his only 2 losses ever. Brad Pickett just retired. He goes on to win 2 more fights in the WEC before it's merged with the UFC in 2011. He beats Kid Yamamoto, and he beats Miguel Torres at UFC 130 in a very controversial fight. A lot of people thought Miguel Torres took that fight. It was basically a grappling match. Miguel Torres was on his back hitting sweeps and going for submissions, and Demetrious Johnson was on top defending. Very controversial fight. But nonetheless, he wins that fight. Now he's 14-1. It's 2011. Flyweight doesn't exist yet. He's still a bantamweight. He fights Dominic Cruz on October 1st, 2011, and loses a 5-round decision. Close fight. Tough fight. Then the UFC announces, you know what? Fuck it. We're opening a flyweight division, and we're going to have a tournament to select who's going to be the champion, which was totally badass. So that's when he fights. They bring in Ian McCall from the Tachi Palace. He fights him to a draw, which a lot of people thought McCall won. And this is all, I'm talking about this because the aura of invincibility around Demetrious Johnson is so big right now that it's important to look back and see where he's come from and those times where he was close to defeat. So the Ian McCall fight is a draw. A lot of people think Ian McCall won, so they do the rematch, and he beats Ian McCall easily. And then after that, he never loses again. He fights Joseph Benavidez for the inaugural flyweight belt, wins a split decision, very close fight, but I thought he won it. Then he defends against John Dodson, John Moraga, Joseph Benavidez again, Ali Bagnatinov, Chris Carriasso, Koichi Horiguchi, John Dodson again, Olympic medalist Henry Cejudo, Tim Elliott, and then he armbars black belt Wilson Hayes. And now we're here, September 9th, 2017. He's going to defend his belt for the 11th time against Ray Borg. It's just crazy stuff, like how dominant Demetrious Johnson has been. So then you got Ray Borg coming in at 11-2. Ray Borg is only 24. How crazy is that, man? And he just turned 24, August 4th, 1 month ago. Homeboy was training for this fight as a 23-year-old kid. Insane. So he's 11-2. He comes in the UFC in 2014 at 6-0, loses a split decision to Justin Ortiz, which is no shame on that. Dustin Ortiz is like the pretty much the flyweight gatekeeper. Maybe he's even a little bit better than that, to be honest. Then he has 3 straight victories. Rear naked choke over Shane Howell. He Kimuras Chris Calades, takes the decision over Gian Herrera before losing to Justin Scoggins, who's another prospect. And then when he came back at UFC 207 and beat the brakes off Louis Smolka, that was when people started to be pretty impressed with Ray Borg. And after that, he beat Husier Formiga in basically a number 1 contenders fight. So that brings us to 11-2, and now he's fighting Demetrious Johnson. Take it away.
I see this going in Demetrius' favor, just because he's just such a consistent fighter. He's very fast. He knows how to win fights. Very well-rounded. He's at a whole different caliber. You know what I mean? If you look back at fighters and you look at divisions, in the 125 division, he's at a whole nother level that nobody's even caught up to yet. I do think Ray Borg deserves his shot. I think he's a great fighter. But unless it's like either a submission attempt or something that he gets lucky on, which I don't see happening, I think it just either goes the distance or it gets finished in the 4th or 5th round. That's how I'm seeing it.
Demetrius Johnson really has a penchant for like late finishes, which is pretty crazy. I think he owns like one of the latest finishes. Isn't it against Kyoji Horiguchi? Yeah. Holy shit. Okay. Round 5, 4 minutes, 59 seconds. Armbar. Like,
you couldn't hold on one more second?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Horiguchi knew that there was one more second, I guarantee you he would let that shit break. But yeah, and then he has another. He has a late 3rd round finish against Wilson Hayes. I mean, dude, you want to see just a domination, and I love Wilson Hayes, but dude, he had nothing for Mighty Mouse. I mean, I don't think he landed anything. It was insane. And it looked like Mighty Mouse was sparring. It looked like he was doing it. It looked like he was.
That's what I'm saying, though. He's at a whole different caliber, man. Like, if you look at even back in the GSP days, like, people always said, like, GSP's at a whole nother caliber. Like, his conditioning, his endurance, he's well-rounded. He knows how to go and fight and win a fight. Some people, even later in his career, were like, oh, it's so boring. But it's not. He knows what to do to go in there and win, and that's who Mighty Mouse is.
And
consistent fighter. He's good.
Sometimes I think dominance is boring to a casual viewer, you know? Like, if it's dominance without a finish, I think that's when people, like, tag it with the boring moniker. And that's what GSP was, like, his fights with Dan Hardy and you know, that streak he had where he wasn't really taking risks, but he was so dominant. But people thought it was boring.
You know what? His controversial fight where he lost, I mean, he didn't lose, he won, but people thought he lost to
Johnny Hendricks.
But here's the thing, though. This is the interesting thing about that fight. If you look back and you look at the numbers, on a scorecard, he actually landed more blows, you know, had more takedown attempts. You know, I think there were significant takedowns. Like, it's been a while. I could be wrong on this, but if you look at the numbers, he won that fight. Yes, it looked like he lost. It was kind of a boring fight too. It wasn't the most greatest thing for GSP in his career.
Dude, I thought that was a great fight. I thought that was fun to watch because he was like going through so much adversity during it, you know.
But technically, like Dana always says, you got to beat the champ. You have to clearly beat him. You can't leave it on the table. And then I don't even know why I can remember this like it was all yesterday, dude. Johnny Hendricks comes out in the press conference. He's like, you know, I wasn't sure if I'd be gassed in the 4th or 5th round, so, you know, I kind of went easy and stuff. And then Dana's like, you're an idiot. This is for the championship, and you're telling me you went. You know, it was a crazy thing. But
so that brings up a good point though. So like, you know, GSP was so dominant for so long, just like Mighty Mouse is. But eventually, you know, time beats everyone. And you just come out the next fight and you just don't look the same. And for GSP, that was the Johnny Hendricks fight. So, like, for the last, 5 fights, I've been waiting for when that's going to happen to Demetrius Johnson. And it
doesn't look like that, though.
No, he doesn't. I mean,
and you got to remember, too, Hendricks in that fight, I know we're kind of off topic a little bit, but Hendricks in that fight was, in his prime. He was looking good. Like, he was set up to be the next champion.
In his USADA prime.
So... You know, and now GSP's coming back, and GSP didn't. I think GSP just left, right? He didn't lose his belt. He left. He gave it up.
Just added 5,000, my friend. Yeah, so I'm waiting for that moment where Demetrius Johnson comes out and just looks old or looks slow or looks out of his prime, but I don't think he's there yet, and I don't think it's going to be this Saturday. And that's why
we haven't seen it, and he's only 31.
Yeah.
I think this fight goes to him.
I usually start looking for that stuff when the guy's 34, 35. You know, they just come out of the next fight and they just don't look the same. Like their body's not healing fast enough. They're just not as athletic as they used to be. But yeah. So I mean, obviously we're all gonna pick Mighty Mouse here, but I think a couple things to highlight of why I'm a little more excited about this fight than the Wilson Hayes fight or the Tim Elliott fight. Man, Ray Borg is a weird striker. Really weird striker. He actually, most of his wins are because he's a quick, explosive grappler, really good scrambler. But in his last fight when he fought Hussier Formiga, who is a very good grappler, Ray Borg elected to keep it on the feet and work his striking. And he was landing some just crushing combinations on Formiga. I mean, uppercuts, left hands, some real weird combos. He draws him in kind of by like putting his hands up like this, sort of like the McGregor thing. He does a lot of weird setups for his strikes, and one thing is he is fast as fuck. That is one thing about Ray Borg. Motherfucker is athletic. And thing about Mighty Mouse is, dude, you just can't grapple with him. You can't. You just cannot wrestle him. You can't grapple him. I mean, Henry Cejudo landed like one takedown and then got schooled in the clinch. That's an Olympic wrestler. Wilson Hayes, no-gi black belt world champion, got his guard passed and taken to school by Demetrius Johnson. Like, you cannot grapple with him. And so I think Ray Borg is going to implement a similar game plan to the Formiga fight and just try to go bananas on the feet. Can he do it for 5 rounds? Can he be effective for any of the rounds? I don't know, but I'm interested in seeing him try. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm more interested in seeing him try to do it than I am in the last couple Demetrius Johnson fights. So that'll be something to look forward to. Like, can he land any of his funky combinations? Can he stop the grappling of Demetrius Johnson? If Ray Borg is on his back, does he have a good guard game? I mean, he has a good grappling game, but I'm trying to look at his Wikipedia to see if he's belted or anything like that, but there's no information on that. I'm sure he's at least the brown belt level or more, but anyways, I'm taking Mighty Mouse by decision. I think Ray Borg could hang on.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting submitted.
No. I think, he's got a grappling background. He might try to go for it, but I think it's not right. I think they're going to end up doing what you're saying and probably just keep it on the feet.
Yeah, you can't grapple Mighty Mouse, dude. End of story.
I wouldn't even want to be against the cage in the clinch.
No. I mean, if you're an Olympic level wrestler and you can't do it, if you're a no-gi world champion black belt and you can't do it, then forget about it. Like, you're not grappling Mighty Mouse. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, what's his best asset? Like, what's his best skill? Mighty Mouse.
That's a good question.
Like, if you had to pick one and say, what does he do best? Like, what was the first thing that comes to your mind?
To be honest with you, it's almost cardio.
Yeah, that's true. He never gets tired. But I want to say his transition game. Like, the way he moves in between striking to clinch to wrestling to grappling. Like, that extra second that other people take to decide what they're going to do.
Yeah. Not
him, man. That shit is instant. Smooth like butter. And that's when he gets the step up on everybody. Is his transition game is so sweet, and that's why you can't grapple with him, because he just beats you to every switch, every change of movement.
He's crazy, definitely he's quick. He's very quick in everything he does. So here's the next question for you: who do you think fight of the night's going to be? Out of just the main card, let's not even talk about the rest of them.
Jeremy Stevens, Gilbert Melendez, for sure.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Latifi and Tyson Pedro.
Well, so what if that ends fast, though? I mean, they'll give him a bonus, but it wouldn't be fight of the night, probably.
That is true.
Well,
there's some sweet UFCs on the horizon. 217.
Is that the GSP card?
Yo, not only is that GSP, all right, But the whole rivalry between TJ Dillashaw and Uriah, because that's Uriah's boys now in there, Cody.
Cody Garbrandt. Yeah.
This could be a good setup, man. I'm looking forward to UFC 217. I know we're getting off topic right now, but...
All right, well, do we have got any closing comments here on 215? I mean, it sounds like you raised it from a 2 to a 7 or a 4 to a 7 on the...
Okay, so I raised it from a 4 to a 7 just because I think these fights are well matched. I think they're going to be exciting. These fighters are definitely like kind of underrated. You know, even the champion fighters here. There's
a lot of fun fights on this card. I mean, I'm looking at the card right now, and on the Facebook prelims, holy shit! Remember when they did that? On the Fight Pass prelims, I'm excited to see Adriano Martins, Cajun Johnson. On the Fox Sport 1 prelims, I really want to see Gavin Tucker back. And then on the main card, dude, every fight on the main card is good. That's what I like. Like, that's all I ask out of the pay-per-view is I want every fight on the main card to be compelling. You know, not like a boxing heavy style pay-per-view where it's John Jones versus somebody and then 4 fights that suck. You know? So, yeah, this is a fun card. I'm looking forward to it. I hope I get to watch it.
Well, I think this weekend is when it's supposed to get to Florida, right?
It's supposed to hit Florida Sunday morning, and it's supposed to hit my area Tuesday morning. But if we have to evacuate, then that'll happen probably Saturday or Sunday morning. So, might be watching this one from a totally legal stream on a laptop.
So, let me ask you this, though. Are you that close to the coast?
Yeah, dude. I'm like 20 minutes from the beach.
Damn. I didn't realize that.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Good luck down there, man.
Coming. Ain't got no more time. All right, so UFC 215 goes down this Saturday at 6:30, I believe, for the Fight Pass prelims, 8 o'clock for the Fox Sports 1 prelims, 10 o'clock on pay-per-view. If you want to ask us any more questions about the prelims or main card, feel free to hit us up on Twitter at Tomorrow's Fights or just shoot us an email, tomorrowsfights@gmail.com. Everything else is going to be on the website, tomorrowsfights.com. Look for articles and coverage of the fight on Saturday. Other than that, have a good one. Be safe. Look forward to the fights on Saturday. Adios.
Peace.
I don't need you to tell me how fucking good my coffee is, okay? I'm the one who buys it. I know how good it is.